Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this third session of the Tech Bio Thursday. Happy that you're all able to join and looking forward to share some insights, some learnings, some best practices with you. My name is Bob Christiaanse and I will be your presenter for today. I'm an account director within LinkedIn for almost 2 years now, working with our enterprise clients from the office in Amsterdam. I won't be here all by myself today, as we have a special guest for the Q&A part. If this is your first Tech Bio Thursday that you are attending, let me explain briefly what we will do. I will first run you through some slides with learnings, insights, tips, and tricks, which will take about 15 minutes. And after that, I will take another 15 minutes for Q&A to answer your questions. So leave your questions in the chat if you have any. We'll run through them right after the presentation. And also feel free to say hi in the chat and let us know where you're from. So again, welcome, and let's dive in. As we are all experiencing, the global pandemic has a big impact on the way we live our lives, the way we work, the way we communicate, and many other things. I think we can all agree that agility is key in this period to be able to adjust to the market forces and continue to innovate and to influence decision making. We did a survey amongst B2B technology decision makers to gain more knowledge and insights to help you to continue to grow your business. The survey was done on a global scale, but in these sessions we are focusing on the EMEA results. As you can see here, there was a significant amount of respondents from the EMEA region, which were equally weighted against SMB, mid-market, and enterprise to give us a good representation of the entire market. All of the respondents are or have been involved in the research, evaluation, buying, implementation, or renewing of tech in their organization. And as you might have seen in the first session, it's not only about IT decision makers anymore. Since their role became more of a facilitator, we've taken into account a wide variety of people from the entire buying committee. Since there is a lot of information flowing from this research, we have created 5 sessions for you, of which this is number 3, as mentioned before. And today we'll be focusing on the end user and to see how this is your extended brand. But first, let's look at the world we live in currently. So what do you do when you go on a holiday? You didn't expect that question, right? Do you check reviews on the resort that you booked before you book it? When you buy a TV, do you check the reviews it's getting before you buy it? When you go to a restaurant, do you check the reviews before you make a reservation? And when your car is broken or needs services, do you check if you can trust the company based on reviews? I think it's safe to say that we all highly value reviews when it comes to spending our money and making a decision. And if we look at this, we are actually looking for other people's opinions on the things we plan to do or buy. And that makes sense, right? We're basically just limiting the risk of disappointment by trusting other people's opinions. And if we look at the companies who are facilitating these reviews, there are some very well-known brands in there. And these are just a few of the thousands of companies that are facilitating reviews. And there are no signals of the business slowing down. The latest news is even that Trustpilot is going for IPO. This means that the hunger for opinions is growing and investors are willing to spend more money in these businesses to facilitate even more opinions. And of course, the majority of this is all focused on B2C decision making, but we already see an increase in companies like Capterra, who are positioning themselves as the intermediary between buyers and technology vendors. So what is the reason of this growing industry? And more importantly, what should we do to adapt to this trend in the age of agility? So in this world of reviews and the hunger for opinions, what kind of information are your customers looking for in the B2B decision-making process? What I didn't tell you in the intro is that in my previous job, I was the managing director of an advertising platform and working closely with Facebook and Google. What I experienced there was that in many cases in the sales cycle, clients were asking for referrals from other clients. In most cases, they were asking this because they didn't have any experience. They weren't sure what this platform was actually giving them, what the added value would be. And our sales team was always a bit like, do we have to? Because they felt like giving their work out of hand by letting other people tell their prospects what they like or don't like about us. What I learned there is that we shouldn't be scared to let our customers speak to our prospect. But what we did need to learn more about is how our prospects were feeling about our product. And more importantly, what we needed to convince them to become a customer. In the following slides, the survey is going to give us some more insights on that. So let's dive in some data. So one of the questions that we ask in this survey is, what resources are influencing your purchase of a product? And as you can see here, the outcome is very clear. 5 out of the top 10 answers are basically about other people's opinions. And with a score of 38%, the peer review is the biggest influence in the purchase. So in other words, behavior that we see in our day-to-day buying is also becoming more and more important in our professional buying. Tech buyers highly value other people's opinions too. Another thing that we see here is that advertising is a number 3, which is interesting since I believe there is an opportunity here, which I will come back to later on. Of course, the examples of review sites that we looked at are about all different kinds of products and services, and all built on your trust that your investment will be worth it. And if we zoom into the outcome of the research, we notice that peer reviews, case studies, and even other users are a very important part of the trust building process during the purchasing process. And let's be honest, the consultant and analyst reports are also part of other people's opinions, right? So if we know that other people's opinions have a strong influence on the trust towards your product, what would be the next step? How do we make sure that we build on that trust and make sure that we will be able to influence the decision-making process to support our sales teams to close their deals quicker and easier? Before we go into some examples and practical tips, let's sum up what we can learn from this part of the research. So first of all, brand advocates are one of the most powerful tools technology companies have for increasing awareness. For increasing awareness of and trust in their offerings. As we have seen in some examples in the beginning, this makes a lot of sense, since our own buying behavior is already very much influenced by brand advocates in our day-to-day life. And therefore, it's not a big surprise that this is also the case for the B2B technology buying. Most brands are probably some of you in this webinar as well are already using traditional case studies in their marketing. But it's not enough. For your customers to become true advocates, you need to elevate their story. You need to make your customers your heroes. Let's have a look at some examples of companies who have already created heroes out of their customers and look at some best practices. Let's start with this example of Gong. This is, in my opinion, a great strategy to let other people tell your story. Since we have now established that other people's opinions are an important factor in the buying process, why not let your users tell about their experiences with you? This is a great way of creating content, giving more insights in what your product is all about, and maybe the most important one, give your potential buyers a glimpse of what they will experience when they become a user themselves as well. Using engagement from end users and existing buyers is also a great way of showcasing what you have to offer and what kind of excitement they will feel when they start working with your product. Of course, this is not a simple step, because this all comes back to your after sales process. Are you still in contact with your clients after you sold your product? Are you aware of what they think of your product? Are you able to identify your top users? These are important questions to ask yourself, since you wouldn't be the first company that welcomes new clients at the front door and just leaves the back door wide open with clients that are leaving with a bad feeling. Needless to say that this will lead to negative reviews, since people want to share their opinions, remember? Looking at another example, we find this best-in-class example of creating heroes out of your existing customers. By turning the tables, Zapier is creating content by saying that they are inspired by their customers instead of telling that they are inspiring their customers. Do you feel the difference there? So from a person's view who's searching for a product like Zapier's, this feels like they are reading about other people's opinions instead of what Zapier wants to sell to them. Again, this has to be part of your nurture flow with existing clients to know what part of your product is helping them to be more successful. So find out those stories, connect with your customers, and you'll be amazed on how easy it is to find other people's opinions that will make your work easier and, more importantly, improve your business results. And do you remember that advertising was number 3 in the decision influencing chart? So why not amplify these kind of stories with some smart targeting towards your prospect? This is a great content for your always on strategy to increase awareness around your product and even your existence of your company in general. Just refresh the opinions regularly and you'll have great performing content that will spark people's interest, since yeah, we like other people's opinions, right? So let's wrap it up and go to Q&A with our special guests. So to conclude, I give you 5 steps to create your own heroes. First, assume everybody wants to be a hero. Step 2, identify heroes. Check in with your customer support team, for instance. Provide them with tools to increase their relationship with their contacts. Use the outcome of that contact to showcase your heroes. Step 3, check your social channels. On the social channels, you have tons of comments, reviews, people that are leaving any kind of opinions again, which you can engage with, and you can use them, of course, with the right, of course you have to ask them for permission, but you can use that kind of information in step 4 to make your buyer look good. Think about how it helps in making them look good to their network, but even more important, think about how it makes them look good towards their fellow decision makers, and to strengthen the feeling that they have made the right decision to buy your product, because in the end, this works both ways, right? And finally, step 5, this is where you have created your first hero. So now we know the importance of your end users and that they are your extended brand. And we all agree that marketing doesn't stop after the deal has been closed. Again, we have now established that your end user is your extended brand. You might have a couple of questions on what this means or should mean for your post-sales process. Therefore, we would like to invite you to join us in the next session on the 15th of April. In this session, Nora Lamoudi will take you through the next part of our research on the tech buyer and tell you more about your post-sales, on how your post-sales support can be a major differentiator. Thank you for your attention. I hope it was useful so far. And please reach out to your LinkedIn contact if you have any questions or would like to know more about these trends. We'll be ready to support you. And now over to our Q&A part with our special guest. Welcome, special guest. Happy to see you.
Hey, Bob. Hey, everyone. Good morning. All happy to join you all this morning. Although it's nice to be referred to as a special guest. Apologies if that is an anticlimax for any of you watching on. I'm a key account director here at LinkedIn. I look after some of our largest tech brands. Bob, I must say, bias aside, as someone who works for LinkedIn, I studied psychology at university, and I found this trend super interesting, as I think it just really taps into like the psyche of our customers, something that I know personally I don't really think about that much when I'm approaching marketing strategy. So yeah, thank you for that. I found it really interesting.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And thanks for joining us. So Ben, first question to you. I mean, we have had 3 sessions now on Tech Buyer Thursday. What is your best learning so far? What do you think of these sessions so far?
So I think the key thing for me is actually how all these trends from all 3, they actually complement each other. It's not a case of, should I do A or should I do B or should I do C? It's rather if you can do A plus B plus C. And I think we're really starting to build solid foundations for a strong marketing strategy. So I'm really enjoying how they're complementing each other.
Yeah, well then. I think it's also really nice to see where we can really tie into the behavior, as you mentioned already, that people are like actual humans in the B2B world as well, right? I mean, we're always thinking about B2B is different, but in the end, this research is also showing us that we're, just human. So I love that. Again, to the folks in the webinar, we mentioned it a couple of times already. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're happy to take on any questions that you have for us. Although it's April 1st, we are here and we are ready to help you with your questions. So let's have a look at some questions that already came in. I think this is a nice one for you, Ben. So the first question is, how do you make sure that people are buying your social proof? So what makes them believe that the opinion is real?
Okay, interesting. So I think let's break this down a bit. So the theory of persuasion in itself is something that's very complex, it's very multi-layered. But when we look at it in terms of a social construct, which is where social proofing lives, which is what you've been mentioning today, it's unlikely and unwise to try to convince all the people all the time on the same matter or the same opinion. Essentially, we can never force someone to believe a particular thought. But what we can do as marketers is we can start to stack the odds in our favor. Now, the reason I mentioned the theory of persuasion there was because one of the most effective ways to deliver a message, an opinion, is to have an authority deliver it. So you only have to look through history, politics especially, to see how we've almost become conditioned to believe those in authoritarian positions. For any of you who has studied psychology or knows of the Milgram electric shock experiment, it's a leading example of that. But an authority does not always mean a position of power. It can just be an expert. Who are you more likely to believe, for example, when it comes to the future of the car industry? Is it going to be a piece that I'm writing telling you it's a petrol or diesel-based future? Or is it going to be one with Elon Musk telling you that the future is all electric? Now, that doesn't mean that you need to pay expensive influencers or well-known faces to deliver your message. You just need consistency, really. So when we take this example of Elon Musk, I mean, he's been delivering the same message, the same opinion for about 20 years now. And by association, the Tesla brand matches that consistency. It knows what industry, which conversation it has an authority in, that it is an authority in, and it doubles down in focused kind of thought leadership messaging within that. Now, the icing on the cake is with consistency of messaging on a topic that you know makes sense for you to be in. You have the foundations to build and recruit your own mini brand army, which for me is one of the main takeaways from this trend. So we are all opinionated. You mentioned this at the start. We love to share our opinions. We're all more than happy to want to have and to want to share those opinions when we can. So we really want to seem like we know what we're talking about, but we want to minimize the risk of being made to look stupid or being made to look misinformed. So when we see experts, whether that's a brand or it's a set of senior individuals within your brand, and they're all sharing the same message and they're sharing it consistently, it's going to de-risk our perceived threat of being made to look stupid. And all of a sudden we start spouting the very same opinions that we've heard. So if I was to summarize that as an equation, it will be authority plus consistency equals influence.
Love the answer. And although we don't all have Elon Musk in our company, I think that the example is great. I love it.
Definitely. Okay, Bob, let's ping it back to you. I can see another one we've been sent directly here. Okay, here we go. So opinions are left in a lot of places and we don't have a lot of resources to monitor all of these places. Do you have any thoughts or advice on this, Bob?
Yeah, definitely. So let me go one step back. So I mean, the internet is huge, right? There's tons of places where you can leave your opinions. What we've seen in the first couple of slides of the presentation is where I indicated that the market of companies that are actually growing upon the opinions that we would like to share. Trustpilot even going for IPO. I mean, these kind of things are there for a reason. I mean, there's tons of room to grow and places to leave opinions. And I think as a company and also as people, I think it's really important that we focus on where we want to get our opinions from. So if I look for instance, healthcare advice, I mean, I can look at the entire internet and find all the most horrific answers I want, but in the end, you want trusted advice and you want trusted opinions. And I think this also goes for the way we work. From a B2B perspective, we don't want to see all the opinions. We want to see relevant opinions, but we also want to see opinions that we can potentially influence or leave a comment or react to people where we can actually respond. And I think there's a really thin line where you want to engage, where you don't want to engage, and it also, I think it's on the balance with PR as well. I mean, PR has a big role in this field as well. But in the end, it's fairly easy to get insights on what's going on. So for instance, you can use Google Alerts, which is a really good tool to identify where people are talking about you. I mean, there are tons of tools out there as well, like Sprinkler or Falcon or Brandwatch. Those are all tools that you can use to monitor what's going on. But I think to get back to the question, I think the most important thing is to apply focus. So to make sure you choose a couple of channels or a couple of places where you really want to engage and look at the opinions of people. And as soon as you apply that focus, you'll make sure that also in terms of resources, I mean, you cannot just look at everything unless you have unlimited resources. But I think nobody of us has this luxury. So we have to be focused on where you're looking for yeah, those opinions and how valuable they are in the end to you.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Cool. Again, if you have any questions on top of these questions, if it's not the answer you were looking for, let us know in the chat. Happy to follow up. Another question came in. I think this is a good one for you, Ben. So in one of the slides, this person mentioned that noticed that the blogs and forums are an important source of influence as well. What are your thoughts on advertising on those? Okay,
so just to recap, that's blogs and forums as an important source of influence and whether they should not be marketing on those. Right. Yeah. Okay, good question. Good question. All right, so I've always been an advocate of multi-channel distribution, but I think if we zoom out a little bit more, it's just as, if not more important, to think about blogs and forums as a secondary influence mechanism. So what I mean by this is that people don't really go to blogs or forums to hear from brands directly. They typically go to hear what real people have to say, right? Now, if we focus on reaching as many of those people who are participating in forums or writing these blogs, and if we focus on them with consistent messaging, going back to my previous point, we're once again stacking the odds in our favor to let them advocate on our behalf. And that's going to tie into where we don't necessarily have the money or the resources, how are we focusing our attention on reaching the right people so they can go and advocate on our behalf in these other arenas. So we can create this aura of excellence about our brands and our products through case study distribution and relevant topical opinion pieces. When I mentioned stacking the odds, we're creating a narrative whereby our audience has seen so many examples of people or brands seeing value from our products or solutions that those sharing opinions in blogs or forums are more likely to go and share that message because it's the information that has been made available to them. And once again, we're de-risking kind of their perceived risk of, am I sharing the right type of opinion where people aren't going to be challenging me necessarily. So it's about stacking the odds, and to connect it back to the previous question, focusing on reaching the right people, consistent messaging, so they can advocate on our behalf.
Great. I think that this next question really ties into that. So this question is more about, it's about the peer reviews, and it's the question is, are you saying that we should only use peer reviews in our content?
Yes, that's fair, completely fair question, but no. So it's important, it's really important to have a mix of content. But what the findings from this show us is that important role the concept of social proofing can actually have. So even when we have more product focused content, maybe you're running a lot of lead generation, just think about ways in which you can include maybe quotes from existing customers within that, even on your landing pages for more kind of typical lower funnel content that you're driving people to. Make sure you have case studies and reviews that are easily visible and just easily accessible to the potential new customer, that new prospect. These are only going to support your overall value proposition. So just include that kind of social proofing theory, that concept, and apply it to where you can based on the journey your customers are looking to take.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, Bob. One last one for the chat I can see here, and this one's to you. Bob, you mentioned there is a great opportunity to advertise with peer reviews and opinions. Oh, this is interesting. Why should I use LinkedIn to spread this kind of content? So pretty direct one there for you.
Good question, good question. Let me think about that. I think let's look at our own behavior first. So if I look at my own behavior, looking at my platform use, so if I'm on any type of platform, there's a kind of behavior that I'm sort of showing. And I think that behavior is more or less the same for a lot of people. So if I look at, for instance, let's say Facebook, Instagram, my behavior is that I'm leaning back. I have a moment of time to tune out a little. I have a moment of time to look at some fun images, to look at some images from my friends, family, those kind of things, maybe even a fun video. And I'm doing this while I'm leaning back. So I'm absorbing content and just chilling out a little. What I'm doing when I'm on, for instance, LinkedIn, I'm leaning forward. I'm looking for information. I'm looking for potentially opinions as well. But I'm actually actively engaging with content because I'm there to learn, to connect, to experience new things actually. And I think that that's the kind of behavior we should be looking at when we are spreading our content. So what kind of content do you want to spread, and what channel is works for that type of content? Connecting this to the peer reviews and opinions, I think if we are on a platform like LinkedIn, we're very open and very receptive for information about products that make us more productive, more successful, all those kind of things. So I think it's really important to have these kind of things shown on LinkedIn, to use this type of content on LinkedIn. I mean, we've seen cases from Zapier and Going that are really successful, and it's just because our behavior is more leaning in, leaning forward, and actually absorbing that type of content.
It's the mindset, really, is what you're saying. The mindset of the audience, why people are coming to LinkedIn. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's why you should be reaching people in that right mindset. Yeah,
Absolutely. I think we're on time. If you have any questions left for us, please reach out to your LinkedIn contact. We're happy to help you with this. If there's any more questions about the research, we have tons of information that we can share with you. Please tune in for the next one on the 15th of April. And happy to connect further on this topic. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.